whatever time you go on. Um, ah, no.
Why is it not showing now? Hold on. Um,
You have to change the time.
Alright, okay, I think it shows now, but it's not listed. Okay, it I think it listed now.
It shows live now. It shows we're on live.
Yep, okay.
Okay. It's showing us as being on live right now. Okay. Here. Put it in the classroom too. Can you put it in the classroom? The link?
Yes, yes,
Well,
just
I
a
can.
moment.
Well, I get my. Hi guys, we're getting ourselves set up because we had to reset up the show, so sorry about that. It was a sound issue. Um,
Alright, it seems that it doesn't have an echoing problem anymore, I think.
okay.
Alright, okay,
Only
I'm
I
just
can
gonna
find the link.
copy all of this into Discord.
Okay, I've got this. All right, guys, if you're around, we're sorry about the link issue, the sound. Oh, Mercury retrograde. You know we're in a shadow, right? Okay. Petrus is telling us our sound is good. All right. Well, that's good.
Alright, sorry.
Okay. Only I have like a couple things to do because I have to put all the links back. If something like this happens, then none of our links are good and people can't find us. So you're going to have to bear with us. Just give us a second. Look, it's a Mercury retrograde. Stuff happens. We're doing the best we can. You know, we try to come out here every couple of weeks. We're certainly online whenever anybody needs us. And this is not an easy thing to do. That's all. Wait a second. I forgot. You have to do it like this. So, how is everyone? By the way, we're going to be doing the election tonight because obviously a lot has happened since last we met.
Yeah, a lot have happened in
Okay.
2 weeks.
Yes. And like we know, there's all kinds of false flag stuff on the
Mm-hmm.
Trump shooting.
Right.
And there's lots of very suspicious stuff with the shooter. Okay, did you know that the shooter belonged to a gun club, to a shooting club? And he was basically thrown out of the shooting club because it was such a bad shot. Now, a lot of people, okay, people don't really know like the workings of the United States government. or Secret Service. Most people have never come in contact directly with the Secret Service agent. I have more than once.
Mm.
And for work, for Secret Service is in charge of counterfeiting money. So, criminal cases, but primary, well, they're not in charge of counterfeiting money. They're in charge of the Treasury. So they're in charge of whether or not there's counterfeit money. That's who's going to come and investigate you. Not the FBI, not the DEA, not the CIA, the Secret Service. So that's one reason why I know them. But my father knew Nixon, and my father took us to meet Nixon when I was young. And um, he was the first president that we met. And whenever you meet a president, they run an investigation on you. It doesn't matter who you are, and they start an FBI file, like who met the president, who was around the president, who was around somebody who's running for president. Trump is a former president. So the way you look at the Secret Service agent and the way they responded to the shooting, if you see the way these guys train and these women train, that's not their normal, ordinary response. Trump would have been down on the ground, ushered into a car. Nobody's fumbling on how to get their gun in a holster. Are you kidding me? They rehearsed that shit. Like there is so much wrong with that. So I don't really want to do that. I don't want to spend time on you know, I don't want to spend time uh, doing a chart and trying to do something with something that we know. Number one, nothing good can come out of it, and anything I say will probably get us YouTube strikes.
Mm.
Like if I start looking at that chart and I start telling the truth, YouTube's going to strike back, or our enemies are going to report us.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to leave that alone on the air. Now, this is the privilege and the benefit of being a member of the server. We will, however, explore the Trump shooting on the server where YouTube,
Right.
where YouTube has no control over my mouth. And they should know even I can't control my mouth. My mouth is running a life. I start seeing things in astrology or in justice, and my life is just, a life of its own. Anyway, all right, so we can get that banner off, and we're going to start our little presentation here. But that's why we're not going to do the Trump shooting, and I felt like we should say something about that. I felt very strongly that we should say something about that. Okay, so
All right.
okie dokie. So the thing that you know, obviously everybody is wanting to know about is what happened in the past, say, 10 days that Biden dropped out of the race. But before we get into that, let's talk about how, from the beginning of this, I was like, look, I'm looking at Trump, I'm looking at Kennedy, I'm looking at Biden, and Kennedy looks better than both of them, but nothing looks right. And I've been saying that for a couple of weeks, right?
Yes.
And it's not an election, and we're not
Mm-hmm.
we're not doing this in the ordinary way. Okay, and there's a reason when if you don't know government and you don't know law and you don't know what's really happening here, I don't know how you're going to figure this out as an astrologer. And I'll explain something about, like, I received something on Reddit where somebody was, I'm worried about this, and Trump's going to be tried for treason. I can't tell you how many things astrologers tell me that they send me posts, and I just put my head down and I think, oh my God, you have no idea how to read a chart. First of all, it's not an election, it's a selection. If you understand the democratic process, basically both sides ran an end game around a primary, and they appointed their candidates, and that makes looking for a winner a real problem because there's an enormous margin for error if you're looking for who's going to win an election when there's not really an election. All
Not a
right,
victory per se, right?
so you're not. It's you're looking for the wrong thing. So we're going to look at Kamala, and this is how you need to put the data. We want you to open up your My Astro World app and join along with us because this is going to be an exercise for everybody to participate in. But this is how you insert the data in the app and hit tab. You don't need to insert slashes or colons or nothing. We made it easy. Just type those numbers in 10, 20. Oh, it's 1964, not 0164. Sorry about that. It's 1964 at 2128 Oakland, California. I'm real sorry about that. Okay. So I didn't even notice that. It must be I must have made a mistake in my notepad. All right, so go ahead and put one in and set one chart up for um, it's two charts because we want you to open up two charts. So open up two of them, and we want you to set one up for inauguration day, which is 1/20/25 at the Capitol building with Kamala's birth information. And then what I want you to do for the purposes of this class and this exercise is set the second one up for the last inauguration at the Capitol building on 1/20/2020 at 1300 hours. Okay? So does everybody have that? This is Kamala's chart. I'm going to work with all of you on the app. So this is Kamala's chart, and I want you to see the data. And this is for 1/20/2020 at 1300 hours. Now, Biden has been demonstrating severe cognitive impairment even 2020. They all knew he wasn't prepared and competent. He's really not competent. He shouldn't be in office. And by the way, the most alarming thing is that we had a former president ask him to step down. We had everybody say, hey, listen, there's a reason why we're asking him to step down. He's not competent for another election, which means he's really not competent to be in office. And no one has invoked the 25th Amendment. They're publicly saying this man can't run for office, but we're going to let him stay in the office of the president until January. That's how fugazi this mess is. Anyway, there is a video, and we have it locked away, but I did say in 2020 Trump wouldn't win, and that, yes, Biden, of course, he was going to win, but that Kamala was really going to be president. That's who looked on the dais that day. She looked like the selection that day, not Biden. Biden seems to have been a real diversion. And if you remember from 2 weeks ago, when we did the charts, we started with Neptune Chronos. And the reason that we started with Neptune Chronos is because Neptune Chronos means incompetent manager, the great uncertainty, annulment of decrees, which is, if this isn't an election, it's a selection. This is an annulment of our democratic process, by the way. They both parties ran endgames for the past 20 years, by the way, 24 years, I think. And this was in 2020. Okay, so she had the triple pattern in 2020, and here's her to the Aries point. The general public lives under the wrong impressions, is kept so under the wrong impressions, is increased. Incompetence in ruling circles. All right, equals Mercury to the triple pattern of Neptune. To be selected at, okay, to the Aries point and to Mercury, to be selected as leader in unclear and confused matters. That's what's set up on this chart for 2020. So Biden was never, ever really running the office. Can you imagine we're trotting this guy out with world leaders? You don't think everybody knows this? Next, we come back, and this is 2025, 1300 hours. Let's do this again. Neptune Chronos to Mercury to the Aries point with Neptune. There it is again. Kamala Harris is going to be the person who gets appointed. Now, for the purposes of learning and understanding, this is the end result of, okay, this is what I'm settling on, this is what makes sense after, and understand we're not putting you through all of this, but after going through all of these. This is the process. So when you want to know how we come across it and why it took us a couple of weeks, because very painstakingly, I came down through here, through all of these triple patterns, and all along with Bobby Kennedy, with Trump, with Biden, that's what we've been doing. Now, right here at 3347, Kamala has, again, matter of fact, let me get rid of this. It's here within a couple of degrees, and I'm going to explain this in a minute about when you do this kind of work. And it's here, it's all within a few degrees. These things are not, this is where nothing happens in a vacuum, is such a great saying. She doesn't go and appear on the dais on the 20th at 1 o'clock and she's sworn in. These are agreements, these are meetings, these are plans. Running Biden in the debate, they were testing the waters. They thought, let's do it again. Why? Because it's America. And in America, if we're going to be honest about what this is, this country doesn't want a female president. This is a very, very toxic country. Okay. Everybody here has like the utmost convenience, and they're incredibly toxic, they're incredibly cruel, they're incredibly greedy and selfish, and you know, they're living such great convenient lives. Most of them really don't know, and I know because I talk to people. I live here. Most people in America have no idea what's going on. They don't remember history. They don't know what happened 10 years ago. They don't know why Kamala dropped out of the house. Everybody in America has amnesia right now. They forgot that Kamala dropped out of the race in 2020. She couldn't even raise enough money, but it didn't matter. When she dropped out of the race, she knew that Biden was going to pick her as a vice president. She was a choice because she's a bad cop. If you know her record as a state attorney in the state of California, Kamala Harris was a very bad cop. She kept people on death row when she had a lot of evidence of their innocence. And I'm not saying Trump is better. Don't make that mistake. What I'm trying to tell everyone is we're appointing a president. They appointed a president in 2016. They appointed a nominee in 2016. We're living in a country where we're having appointments by powerful people. The American people are not getting to judge. What they're doing is they're rallying everybody up, getting everybody all riled up for Trump or Biden, and telling everybody, and using propaganda to convince them. And since they know that most people are too busy buying their Starbucks and going to the gym and on the phone with their selfies and their bullshit, quite frankly, they've got their finger on or their thumb on exactly what's happening, the pulse of what's happening in this country. So this is where we're at. And Moon Hades, the moon moves 13 degrees in a day. And on this day, on election day, this is at exactly 1300 hours, by the way. On election day, this is going to get here at some point on election day. And this is going to be here to Mars Zeus. Kamala's in a lot of danger. And Mars Zeus is all over her chart. And if somebody's really at risk of somebody having taken a pot shot at him, it's Kamala Harris. Like I said, she's got a history. She's a bad cop. She kept people on death row. She, she targeted black families. She ran a school to prison pipeline. She focused on truancy with particularly immigrant and black families. So if there was truancy, she'd send the police out there. They'd arrest the kids and the parents. She literally created a school to prison pipeline, and there's a lot of private prisons, so there's money in it for the firefighting. And she said, listen, she needed to keep them. She kept people in prison, and she said, look, I need them as, the firefighters for the wildfires. They bring prisoners out, and they'll give you save a little bit of time off if you endanger your life and go fight in a wildfire with no training, by the way, or very little training. So she had a lot of private prisons from, the kids, the immigrants. That was in the state of California. I didn't see her charge any of those people for abuse. There were 2,400 cases in the first 6 months of those private prisons where they were taking the children that were coming in from the border. 2,400 cases of sexual abuse. A 4-year-old girl had gonorrhea in her throat, and she claimed that it was one of the Border Patrol people. She didn't prosecute any of that. Steve Mnuchin, who was Trump's Treasury Secretary, and he had over 1,000 cases of mortgage fraud and was really one of the architects of the subprime mortgage fraud that took down the global economy in 2008. He didn't charge Steve Mnuchin. So I said this on Facebook, and maybe some people have seen it. This is what the United States has come down to. It's no longer the GOP and the Democrats. It's no longer the Republicans and the Democrats. We're down to the Crips and the Bloods. They're gangs. So Kamala Harris is going to be appointed on the 25th or the 20th of 2025. I think she's in danger. And if you spend some time looking at her chart and you go through all of the triple patterns and you do the work, you'll realize why. But Kamala Harris is going to be the first female president of the United States. But the first female president of the United States is going to be like every president of the United States. She's a figurehead. The difference between her and others is she's willing to absolutely stand up and do the bidding and play every little game that there is. So I feel like we're done with the election in case somebody has any kind of question that they want to ask. And then I don't know if Selena's here. Did she show up for us today? Ha 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 ha. Yeah, figurehead for corporate politics as usual. She's not a milquetoast boring Democrat. Kamala Harris, honey, no dirty cop is a milquetoast boring Democrat. Okay, the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans is the Democrats are much better at hiding their crimes. The Republicans are idiots. Like they always get caught doing something in the most ridiculously overt way. Like, oh, for God's sake, somebody had to indict you. You made it impossible to not get caught and make it a stink out of it. But Kamala Harris is a dirty cop. Look, the optics for Netanyahu. We are arming. She has been the vice president for 4 years. She's been covering for Biden for 4 years. She, as much as anybody else that's an elected official who's met with President Biden, has known for 4 years that this guy is non compos mentis. And no one is trying to get him out of office. That's how corrupt it is. And y'all out here doing astrology like there's going to be a winner in something. Listen, the United States, whether it's Kamala or it's not going to be Trump, but it didn't matter. Okay, the United States is in for the shock of their life. This is the country in the world that's been dumbed down enough to be easily taken over. Most people don't know how to survive. They don't know how to grow their own food. They don't know anything about protecting their health. They don't know how to filter water. They, so the United States is at big risk. Yeah, Trump says in 4 years. Rod, you do realize like Trump is an idiot. He says so many things that I, I can't even believe that he's running for. He is so dumb. Yeah, well, I don't think it's the end of the American experiment. I'm going to tell you this. I believe, and this is really always the way history has shown this, that a minority are going to start grumbling and revolt, and that larger numbers will join them. And the more austere things become, the more Americans will join the forces against the government. That's what I think is going to happen. Me, I'm looking for some nice, and I've talked about this. I'm looking for a nice little place out of the way to grow some food and be able to have some decent water and ride the storm out. I think cities are going to be very much at risk. They've told us about supply chain issues, which is bullshit. There's no supply chain issue. They're planning on creating the problem. Did you guys see the Olympics? I saw some of the pictures from the Olympics. Do you guys remember the opening show from 2012? Was this big ghastly ghoul running around the Olympics with the big hypodermic needle and the nurses pushing beds with children around. Do you remember that was the opening in 2012? The Olympics is telling you what's going to happen. They've opened Pandora's box and they intend to unleash hell on earth. That's what I garnered from just looking at the pictures. I was like, okay, so that's the plan. That's really the plan. They tell you what they're going to do on TV. No one's paying attention. Yeah, go back to the 2012 to the opening ceremonies. As a matter of fact, you know what? Somewhere I think I have a picture. Hold on, I'll show it to all of you. Hold on a minute. I posted it on Facebook. And a friend of mine reminded me, he's like, hey, you remember when we thought this was crazy? This is, the United States is becoming the most hold my beer for anything that happens country I've ever seen. It's like, oh, you think we can't outdo that? No, you are wrong. You watched it, Raji? You know that that's in the Bible, right? The pale horse to unleash the devil. The first the pale horse comes. I forget exactly the order or what it says. But when I saw the picture, I was like, holy shit, that's right out of the Bible. And I believe a French rock band played a French song that's about a revolution. Yeah, the first seal of the apocalypse. Well, that's what they want you to believe. They want everybody like that it's this Christian thing, and uh, so I'm going to say something that most people don't realize, that there is a lot of documented data in caves, way more um, consistent with aliens being the gods that roamed the earth before man. And the masters of the system that we are all part of. Now, scientifically, and Neil deGrasse Tyson says this all the time, when they look at the chemical makeup of the body, that we are made of the stuff of stars. And we are. So if you look at what's going on here, forget everything else, and you look at all of the planets around here, you'll begin to realize that when you read a chart, especially when you're trying to do mundane astrology, one of the things you have to factor in is where those planets are moving. And while the planets are not in a good space at a good time, this is indicative of slavery, Hades Volcanus. Um, Pluto's going to catch up with Volcanus, so for a lot of people, it's going to be an enormous change for them uh, at some point in the not too distant future. And Mitos is going to be over here, and that's going to be indicative of a lot of death on the planet, because by the time Admetos gets over here, Neptune will still be aspecting there, and Neptune has to transit all the way to here. I believe that they're going to run another pandemic. I think that a massive amount of people are going to die from illness, by the way. So the way that they'll get us is food, bio warfare, biological warfare, food, vaccines, the healthcare. And she's, look, she is part of it. She, like others, has slavery to the Aries point. Hades Volcanus. None of these people are right for the country. Trump is not better. Trump is just as bad, if not he's worse. He's not just as bad, he's worse. Although it's like, you run Trump and Kamala. Americans are not thinking. We're running a bad cop against a con man. How many of you have been following me long enough to have heard me say that cops and criminals have the same chart? Uh, You know, we're actually more. It's more like we're playing robbers and robbers, but we're calling some of them cops. it's, it's like when you were kids. Did you ever play shirts and skins? You're all pretty much on the same team. Just some of you aren't wearing shirts. You're all in the same neighborhood. You're all playing together. You all switch back and forth. So it's the same thing. I mean, I think that everybody needs to just chill out and understand that this is simply part of the process. This is what happens when power gets out of control, and power and money is out of control. By the way, to let you know just how out of control they are, and they talk about inflation, my internet, just my internet, nothing else attached to it, costs $91 a month. Just the internet, not the phone. I don't have cable anymore. I will not pay for them to program me. Besides, I listen mostly to spiritual music on YouTube. I don't really need cable. And if you want to get some great advice, you cannot immerse yourself and go round and round and round in what's about to happen. You have to get up every day, do what it is you're supposed to do, and get your life organized and squared away to where you're going to have a safe place to land in the event that trouble comes to your area. And this is where having a plan, having friends, knowing people who have been in the military and who have trained, and people who know how to grow food, people who know how to distill water. These are going to be the important skills. And I'm going to say one more thing about this, and then if you guys have any questions, we'll go ahead and we'll take your questions. And if not, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But if you're thinking about going to college and taking out a student loan, make sure it's in agriculture or something useful, something that's going to help you and others survive. Otherwise, don't waste your money. Go spend a lot of time at the library and see if you can't find a technical school and learn some plumbing, learn how to run electric. Like if you don't know somebody who knows how to run electric, you might be in a real problem. If you don't know somebody who knows how to build a house from, the ground up or out of a pile of mud, you might have a problem. I'm very fortunate to actually know people who have incredible skills, and we've all been talking about this. Yeah, definitely skip. Look, I think you should take liberal arts. Liberal arts are good courses to take. It's good for humanity. Don't get me wrong, but you know, make your liberal arts classes your electives right now. Don't make that the main courses or, or your degree. That would be bad. So Selena, I guess she didn't make it. She probably was asleep. She had wanted me, and I don't want to do it if she's not here. Her ex-husband was in, and we'll come back and we'll actually do this when she's online, probably in 2 weeks. Her ex-husband was in Building 5 during September 11th, and he survived. And she said, "Oh, I'd like to know, how he was so lucky to get out of that." I was like, "That's a great chart to do for a class because a lot happens that day." So I think we're going to be doing that. Also, I just wanted to say, if there's a chart that someone is interested in for a particular reason, let us know. We might consider doing it and going over it for everyone. What I do prefer, though, is that people come and get readings because there is no better way to teach this astrology, and Raji can attest to this, than to have people who are here having their charts read who can confirm or deny anything that we say. This is truly the best way to do this work. Now, before we let you go, don't forget that if you're going to go ahead and you're going to keep trying to figure this out and you think you might have a better idea or something better, don't forget to review all of the triple patterns, every single one of them on everyone's chart. Trump, Bobby, everyone. By the way, I believe that Bobby Kennedy may actually truly, genuinely win the election. How they're going to pull off covering that up, I don't know. I have no idea. But he still looks like the people's choice. Again, not the brightest choice of all of the candidates. So that's our findings for that. And because there's no good news in this, I don't see why we're going to beat a dead horse between now and November. I assure you, plenty of other things leading up to this election and all of the things that they're trying to pull. They're trying to do a tracker that's going to track your carbon footprint and make the tracker mandatory. And they've been trying to do this since 2020. Okay, that's that ID, that digital ID thing. So they can track your movement. They can track your car, they can track your spending, they can track what you eat. So there's going to be so many things that are happening between now and November under the guise of everybody, well, under the disguise, because everybody's focused on the election. So during these periods when they've got everybody focused on the election, that's actually when they're pushing laws and bills and they're making agreements and the corporatocracy is, having meetings and they're basically plotting against all of us. Yeah, see, the whole thing about polls and polling, it doesn't even matter. When they're rigging an election, it doesn't matter. They throw ballots out. There's so many things that they do. Look, they've been rigging elections. Look at the immaculate election of 2000 and the pregnant Chads. Do you remember that? Pat Buchanan in Palm Beach County, he on a hot mic, he says, "I couldn't have gotten 5,000 votes in Palm Beach County." He was flabbergasted. Here you got a Holocaust denier who supposedly got 5,000 votes in Palm Beach County, which, I know the story in the Bible, but if you lived in Florida, Moses parted the Atlantic Ocean and the Jews went to the promised land, Miami. Okay? That is like such a South Florida is a very very heavily a big Jewish community there, big Latin community. But in the Latin community, believe it or not, there's what we have we call Cubans, the Jewish Cubans. A lot of Jewish Cubans there. So it doesn't surprise me that RFK would be polling good in the South. Yeah, Orale is more Mexican. The Cubans are more oye. Oye. Oye, oye. But yeah, kind of a hot mess. When you start going through everybody's triple patterns for inauguration day, that's when you'll start to realize when you're reading other people's charts, it's not as easy as you think, which means you have to really have a strategic mind and a strategic approach in your interpretation and your analysis of a chart. You still have to have a very strategic approach. Like what is this about? And for Kamala, look, the push for global slavery has started for a long time. And if you don't think that they're all on the same side, let me show you historically, and all of you can check this information out. Nixon was the first president to open up China and to open up diplomatic relations with China. That was, in fact, his big claim to fame is that we had such close relations with China, and Nixon was able to open up a dialogue and communications with China. And after Nixon, Hillary Clinton had a little bit of a problem with the Rose Law Firm and some deals that they made in Arkansas. And she was then First Lady, and they needed to get, especially after Vince Foster supposedly was murdered, or no, he committed suicide. That's what it was. He committed suicide. They found him in the park. He committed suicide, and he had two gunshot wounds to the back of the head. He was a very talented man to commit suicide like that, by the way. It takes incredible talent to be able to pull that one off. So they sent her to China. That was back in the 90s. Now, if everybody thinks that's when after they sent her to China, that's when she opened up the deal with the Chinese and Walmart for for the Chinese to supply Walmart. And Walmart is an Arkansas-based corporation. So she makes the deal because it's slavery. We have been inching closer and closer to China all along. When Trump talks about China and how he likes their model, he's not the only one. The World Economic Forum addresses how they love the business model of the Chinese people, that they've got a complete lockdown, there's no freedom, you can't use a pass, you can't, everything is on a social credit score. The Chinese people, that's why that there's cameras everywhere, so they love that. So Trump is talking about China. So Nixon started it. Clinton made the deal. Trump is talking about China, but the United States has been doing business and has dealings with China. Look at all the products that we buy in the United States that are made in China. The Chinese own 40,000 acres 15 miles from where I'm sitting right now on the water. Prime property in Florida, by the way. And during this, this is something that's been going on for the last 20 something years under Republican and Democratic presidents. The whole purpose of opening up the B2B visas that they have, where if you have $100,000 investment in the United States, you can come here and you can get a visa. The goal is to adapt a foreign rule that puts the American people submissive to the American government. So, anyway, we're going to come back in 2 weeks. If there's anything you guys want to talk about or see, let us know. And I don't mean, Saturday morning at 3 o'clock 2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
give
get
give us
in touch with
give us
us.
a little, yeah, give us a little heads up. And of course, if you need to reach us, how you can reach us, as we say, the server. And please do not forget. Wait a second. That we appreciate the contributions to the school. And if you appreciate what you offer or what we offer here, don't forget, and this is very important to us, hit the subscribe button, share, like, and comment. Okay? And we'll all see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
We'll be back here in a few weeks. Ciao, ciao, everybody. We'll be on the server, by the way, if anybody needs anything. But we actually will be talking to each other. So if you need something, let us know. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a
Bye.
couple
Thank
weeks.
you.